is your home of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sports Radio 97.1 The Fan.
Finds a trailer shot. Score!
You are now listening to The Inside Edge with Jody Shelley and Bob McElligott. This is your inside perspective on the NHL, players, the Blue Jackets, and more.
March with us. Brought to you by Ohio Health, Nationwide Insurance, El Dorado, Scioto Downs, and Huntington.
Here's former Jacket Jody Shelley and the voice of the Jackets, Bob McElligott.
Welcome to the Inside Edge. I'm Bob McElligott along with Jody Shelley as we return to the studio this week here, the 97.1 The Fan studios. And it seems like we haven't been here for forever.
No, we've been on the road, and it's nice to be back in the studio, back downtown Columbus.
It is, and it's nice to come in here after the Blue Jackets scored themselves a 4-1 win over the Carolina Hurricanes last night. Was it a statement win for them? That's something we can talk about as we go along here, and we'll talk about the schedule the rest of the week. You're going to see Carolina again coming up on Saturday, but before they come back, it will be the Ottawa Senators that'll be here tomorrow to take on the Blue Jackets in the first meeting of the year between these two clubs. Also, in just a bit, we will have Blue Jackets forward Brandon Dubinsky joining us. He of the two-goal performance last night for him. Brandon Dubinsky and Boone Jenner, Jody, we've been talking about them coming to life. They both did a little bit last night.
They did, and that is a big deal for the second half of this season as the Blue Jackets look to those guys. And I know Doobie's been squeezing it. We'll ask him a little bit about that a little bit later.
Yes, we will. But right now we're going to go right off the top with, this is an A-list guest. Wouldn't you agree? This is an A-list
no
guest.
question.
No doubt about it.
Huge hockey fan.
This guy is a former Ohio State quarterback. He is an analyst for ESPN and ABC, and as Jody just said, a huge Blue Jackets fan. He's always out there preaching the Blue Jackets gospel. Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Herbstreit joins us. Kirk, thanks for coming on tonight.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Oh, we're just kicking it back and hanging out tonight. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm very familiar. If you're still at the same Front Street area down there, I'm very familiar with that studio.
Oh, yes.
My old stomping grounds back in Columbus. That's a great place.
Yeah, there's a little statue actually right as we walked in the main entrance of you sitting there.
Yeah,
it's in the thinking man's pose, right?
Having so much fun with this team. I mean, from the beginning, it's just been so much fun. I watch you guys as often as I can, and now that my season's over, I'll be dialed in quite a bit. It's been strange. My youngest son, Chase, he's addicted to it the way I am, and we watch him as much as we can. And what's fun for us is typically the Jackets get off to a slow start, and then they start to kind of catch fire when they're almost mathematically eliminated. And now it's been a lot of fun to see them right in the mix, and obviously having such a great start. And you start getting really, really amped up for every single game that they play now.
You know, it's funny, too, because during that 16-game winning streak the Blue Jackets were on, a lot of people were locked in, but there was nobody that was less locked in than you were. I mean, every time I looked at Twitter, I would see you tweeting after one win and another win. And you were in the midst, as you said, not only was it your season, Kirk, but you're going through like the National College Football Playoffs, and you're still taking the time to talk about the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, well, I remember when Jody came in to our studio and we talked hockey. I mean, I've been following them since there was a debate about whether or not the tax will go through to build the arena, and it failed. And Mr. McConnell said, "The heck with that! This franchise is still going to happen, and this arena is going to happen." And he still went ahead and took Columbus from being kind of known as just kind of a minor league town with minor league sports, and took them to a different level and said, "We're going to build this arena. We're going to bring this team in." And I mean, for a guy who didn't know anything about hockey, but really appreciated just the athletic ability and seeing in person, it just blew me away. But to see the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings in Columbus, Ohio, going way back, it was just startling to witness that in person. That was in Columbus that was happening. And then you just kind of just started cheering for the team and kind of getting behind them and getting to meet guys like Jody and a lot of the other guys, and just became addicted to it. And I was really winning. What have they made the playoffs? A couple times. I think they've gotten into the postseason.
Twice.
And for me, it was really more about, of course, you want to see them win, but it was just more about the pride of them representing Columbus and kind of being a hard-working, kind of grinding type of team. And when they lost Johansson last year, I thought, man, they might be taking a step back, and what direction are they going to be going now? And to see that the kind of the chemistry and the different lines that come in, and just there's not a drop off. In the past, it was like there's maybe two lines that you felt pretty good about night in and night out. They could compete in the NHL level, but maybe some of the other lines you could get into some trouble. Man, these dudes, they get in, and it's like there's not a drop off at all, and they all seem to kind of get. Their night could be any night, and they get hot, and they really seem to just believe in each other. And when Bob's in net, I was trying to explain to my son. I said it's almost like Aaron Rodgers for the Packers. Like in hockey, it's the goalie, and if your goalie is hot, you ride him as far as you can. And obviously, Bob's been that guy for a long time now.
Hey, Herbie, and we're talking with Kirk Herbstreit, and longtime Columbus, Ohio resident, and you could tell a day one fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and we're proud to have you as a fan. Hey, Herbie, I'm just wondering now, this city, you've been an athlete here, and now you're on a big stage, but you're watching what's going on with this team and this organization. I mean, when you sit there, how proud are you? And you get what these players and these fans are feeling right now, because there is a real buzz, and this team is for real. How much pride do you have in that?
Oh, it's huge. You can really see the state of Ohio and what they've been able to do with some of the teams there when the Cavs got on their run, and people talked about how that was kind of for all of Ohio, but really northeastern Ohio. But for Columbus, and especially for what the Jackets have been through as a startup franchise, and going back so many lean years, and these fans have been there and supported them and through thick and through thin. And I'd like to think, and Jody, you're around the league and been all over it. When I talk to guys, whether being down here in Nashville or wherever, they always talk about based in Columbus and how supportive they are. And this is when this team hasn't necessarily always had a playoff caliber team. And now for this team to be playing the way they are, and we're past New Year's Day and moving into the middle of January and February approaching, and this team isn't losing any momentum at all. It's awesome for the players because I know they appreciate it. And I watched your interview, Jody, after they play. You always talk to one of the players there, and to see the fans don't leave. They're still there listening to the interview. And if I'm a player, gosh, I mean that has to really, really inspire you and make you really feel like you're proud to represent a town that appreciates good hockey and a competitive team. I mean, I've watched some of the times when they go on the road, it looks like it's a half-empty arena. And in Columbus, that's never really been the case, and especially right now with the way this team's playing. And there's such an energy that just seems to come off the television screen when I'm watching them. I can't imagine what it's like when you're there watching them. Because, again, I've watched some lean years, so to watch them now playing the way they are, I know that city is embracing it and fired up about the rest of the year.
Herbie, I got to ask you, you did that national championship game, and, I mean, that was a huge game. The preparation that went into that must have been huge. And I'm listening to you here break this down. You sound like a hockey analyst to me. You're ready to go.
I only know it because of listening to you.
Yeah, oh boy.
No, really, guys like you. I mean, I'm the first one to admit, now I have been watching it pretty closely for whatever it's been now, however many years, 14, 15 years of watching it and paying attention. But when I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, we had a team called the Dayton Gems, and they were I don't know if it was ECHL or whatever it was. But we actually got into hockey as kids, but nothing like what you would do in Canada or up in Boston or up in Wisconsin or Minnesota. And then when I got into teenage years and college years, hockey was kind of off my radar. It was more about what you see mainstream media, football and baseball and basketball. And now that I've been able to watch it and learn, I watch and listen to guys like yourself and really starting to understand the game. I guess maybe, 7 or 8 years ago, really started to understand the game a little bit. And and just appreciate. I would argue that hockey players at that level are as athletic or more athletic than anybody. To watch what they do in person, the way they skate, go down, hop right back up. I mean, I don't know how their groins and their ankles take the pounding for 82 games, and let alone going into the postseason.
Talking with Kirk Herbstreit of ESPN and ABC. He's a former Buckeye quarterback and of course, a longtime Columbus Blue Jackets fan. And, Kirk, you talked about growing up in Dayton with the Gems and the old days of the IHL. And I think Ohio is special for that because you had that community there. You've had great minor league teams in Columbus throughout the years. In Cleveland, there wasn't a base enough to support the NHL when it was there years ago, but there is a good, tight hockey community there now. Toledo, there's good hockey fans. There's hockey fans all over the state. And it's just been like you've been waiting for a good team or a successive run here of a couple of seasons to bring all those people together. And we've seen it a couple times, as you said, with a few playoff runs. But this year it really seems like it's for real. So all of those smaller communities are kind of coming together as one here. So we were just talking about Columbus, but this is a much bigger picture, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good point. And I think part of the lure when the Jackets first came into town was what you're talking about. It is that these NHL teams are in Ohio and in Columbus, and I think it really got people excited. It gave everybody a kind of a bug about, hey, the New York Rangers coming to Nationwide Arena. We can go down and try to get tickets and go to the game, or the Pittsburgh Penguins, or whoever it might be. And I mean, to this day, whenever I get back to Columbus, and if I get a chance to go to a game, or you guys are actually coming down here next week, I'm already all set. I'll see you guys down there next week for this game. But whenever I see them in person, I think there is a sense of pride, like we were talking about earlier. And I think a lot of these teams that did follow minor league hockey, as good as that was, this is the real deal. And to see a team right now, I mean, they're not just having a good year. I mean, what they're doing at this point, where they're going back and forth with Capitals with the best record in the entire league. I mean, that you just want to knock on wood. I feel bad saying that. I don't want to jinx anything that's going on, but I mean, look at the standings. Like, I take a picture of it with my phone every day. Like, they're the top of the entire NHL, not like their division. The entire NHL. So I get on Twitter a lot, and a lot of the Pittsburgh Penguin fans and other Detroit Red Wings fans are like, yeah, they're like yawning, like whatever. Call us when you win a few cups. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, be happy for a franchise like Columbus, or even what Minnesota's doing. They're having a great year. Of course, they haven't won any cups or anything, but just the fact we're having some fun, and it's competitive, and people can go to the arena and have a great time, and teams kicking butt and taking names. I mean, I don't know. I think it's great for the sport and great for the league that teams like Columbus and even Minnesota are having the years that they're enjoying.
You talked a couple of minutes ago about the fact that this team, and Jody and I talk about this all the time, it's a team of really no stars. It's about, well, except for the goaltending, but it's a team where anybody can be the hero on any given night. And having come from, a big Division I program, being part of a team, doing what you do now, which is being around some of the best athletes in this country, how much can you appreciate the fact that there's a group like that and that it's somebody different every single day? And how much tighter knit does that situation make a team?
Well, the cool thing about what I've experienced in the football side is I came in as a can't miss 5-star, going to start for 4 years kind of guy, and I fell flat on my face and had to deal with that adversity of being in the back of the line, and had to fight my way back up to the top of that line, and ended up enjoying a career that I'm proud of because of the perseverance that I learned about. And so when I do college football games, I feel like I have an ability to relate to all the players on the roster, whether it's the high-profile guys or the guys that are kind of grinding and kind of working their way through. And so when I look at this team, and when you play this many games and you travel as much as these guys travel, and you're on, you take your plane, you're getting into the hotel late, and you're on the West Coast and all over, it can really take a toll on you emotionally and physically. It can be draining. And to be able to have a room like they seem to have, where there's camaraderie, and there's older veterans and guys that have been around who kind of get what it takes, a guy like Scott Hartnell or whoever it might be, helping maybe some of the younger guys who maybe they're going through it for the first time. I just think they've done a really good job of kind of mixing the chemistry and the development of this team to where you can rely on some of the youth. Sometimes looks like, you know, they have their legs under them and they can provide some energy, and other times it's more the guy that's kind of been around and understands how to pace himself. And I think that mix, for whatever reason, it's just working. And I definitely look at the chemistry of a team. And Jody, you tell me, because you've been out there, and it's easy to have good chemistry when you're winning, but it just seems like with all the wear and tear on your body and your mind, having a room that you actually look forward to coming to the arena and not just playing, but hanging out together, that's got to be huge for a team like this.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that, and I've mentioned it to Bob here a few times. There's not many moments that I miss being a player in the National Hockey League, and I think during that 16-game winning streak, I was actually jealous. I sat outside that locker room and watched guys go in, and they had that bounce in their step, like they couldn't wait to get in there with their teammates, and then they didn't want to leave after a practice or they go behind the closed doors, and you really get the sense that, boy, that group has got something special going on. And they don't want to make predictions. They don't want to guess at what they can do. But I don't think there's anything that is out of their reach for this group, and I think that is what makes this really, really an exciting. It's only the first half, and I know that. But, I mean, you see coaching in college football, that's another level of it's magnified week to week for such a short period of time. But this coach here is definitely an all-star, too. He's got his stamp on it, and boy, I tell you, it's impressive to watch, Herbie.
And again, I don't know how it works in Major League Baseball and the NFL and the NHL, NBA, how much a coach makes a difference. But I got to believe, we're talking a lot about the players, but I got to believe that his experience, both the good and the bad, really give him great perspective on how to handle, whether it's a 16-game run like that or they get on a 2 or 3 game run going the other way where they lose a few tough ones. Seems like he's got the temperament and the experience to really push the buttons and be able to get these guys to be able to relate to what it takes to be competitive and be consistent.
Well, Kirk, we got to ask you this. You mentioned it is now your off season. What does the off season entail for you?
Great question.
I mean,
you're on a beach, right?
You're busting your hump from you're busting your hump from what? Late August until just about a week or so ago. What is the off season for Kirk Herbstreit, college football analyst?
Well, my 4 boys are getting older, but it becomes that. I mean, more so than what I do from August to January, where I try to combine the work and also be there with my family. Now my 2 oldest are actually driving now. Before I kind of had an Uber service where I was just driving them everywhere that they needed to go.
And not getting paid for it.
Right. And now my older 2, they drive, so they're handled, and I still get to drive. I actually enjoy that. I still get to drive my youngest around everywhere that he goes. But that's pretty much my thing, is my wife and my kids, and try to go to as many sporting events as humanly possible. I mean, I'm always looking for a guy's trip to a game or going to the Super Bowl or go wherever there's a game of significant magnitude. I'm doing everything I can to talk somebody into going to that game. So I'm hoping to get up to nationwide now that my season's over and come up and see you guys and definitely come in for a game or 2 before we again, knock on wood, get ready for them to get into the postseason.
Well, now that Jody has kind of anointed you as an analyst, I do the radio side by myself. So if you want to come in and do color, like, it's radio, Kirk, so you don't even have to say what's right. Yeah. Nobody's going to know. Whatever you say is exactly what happened.
I'd be cool with that until some of the names on some
I'll
of the.
do the name.
I'm good on the jacket. You handle the names.
I'll do the names.
I'll follow your lead.
You just make up whatever else you got to make up, and it'll be fine. Nobody will know the difference.
Yeah, count me in. That sounds great.
So we'll see you next week in Nashville?
Yeah, definitely. I'll come over and hopefully come over to the morning skate, and love to see everybody and hopefully enjoy a Blue Jackets win on the road.
Good, man. Looking forward to seeing you, and go Jackets. Thanks for this, Herbie.
Absolutely. Good talking to you guys. Jody, I'll see you next week.
All right, man.
All right, thanks, Kirk. That is Kirk Herbstreit, former Buckeye quarterback, formerly a host on this very station, and now an analyst for ESPN and ABC, calling the biggest football games, college football games in the nation. We told you he was a huge fan. He's preaching the Blue Jackets gospel, and you could hear it right there. He knows what he's talking about.
I am so impressed. You know, you get a tweet here and there that he's watching and keeping a close eye. And I've watched him and seen some of his preparation for those college game days. You can only imagine how in-depth that is. And he's got the eye on the Blue Jackets. Good for him, and sounds like he's he's been through all the ups and downs. So enjoying this season.
All right, that was a good guess. The table is now set, and we'll see if our next guest can match up to our first guest. Blue Jackets forward Brandon Dubinsky will join us as the Inside Edge continues on 97.1 The Fan.